Hello guys. So in this session we are going to learn how to deploy Helm chart on EKS cluster. So as you can see here, this is my article. So now we are going to follow this article to deploy Helm chart on EKS cluster. So first of all, we need to understand what is Helm. So Helm is a package manager that works very similarly to Brew, Choco, APT and M on Mac OS, Windows, Debian, Red Hat respectively. And it is used for software installation and gives you advantage of using a single command to install something. And for example, if you follow a mutual process to deploy a front-end application on an EKS cluster, it would likely involve running to the following commands at the beginning. So here, that's the small introduction about Helm. So now here, as you can see here, I launch one instance with the name EKS, and now we are going to install first of all this Helm and so on. So let's follow the article to deploy Helm chart on EKS cluster. So as you can see here, I successfully connect to my terminal. As you can see, the operating system is Ubuntu. So now let's run these commands to install Helm. So first step is install Helm. So as you can see, so first of all, to install Helm, we need to download the GPG keys. So as you can see the command here. So I'm going to run this command on my terminal. Okay, it's done. Now the next step is we need to install this apt transport https. So I'm going to run this command to install this. So okay, it's done. Now next is we need to run this command. Okay, it's also done. Now we need to update our system package. So as you know, the command to update our system package, sudo apt update. So I'm going to clear my screen first, and then we need to update our system package using this command. So the next step is here. Now we need to install Helm. So to install Helm, I'm going to use this command. So now, okay, it's done. Now let's clear the screen first and then install Helm. So it's almost done. Okay, now it's done. Now I'm going to clear my screen and then now it's done. Now the next step is install AWS CLI. So as you can see, we need to download the AWS CLI bundle using below command. So firstly, we need to download this AWS CLI to install AWS CLI. So let's download this AWS CLI bundle first. Okay, it's done. Now the next step is we need to extract this AWS CLI bundle setup. So how to extract using unzip command. So here if I run the ls command, as you can see the zip file. So we need to unzip this using this command. So as you can see, command not found, unzip. We need to install unzip first. So how to install? As you know the command sudo apt install unzip. So first we need to download unzip. Okay, it's done. So I'm going to clear my screen first. And now after that, let's unzip our zip file. So yes, it's done. Now let's clear the screen. And now if I run the ls command, as you can see our unzip file AWS. Okay, it's done. Now configure the AWS CLI on Ubuntu. Now let's install AWS CLI on Ubuntu. So how to install? The command is here. After unzip our file, we need to run this command to install AWS CLI. So okay, it's done. Now as you can see, you can run now to check your AWS version. So I'm going to check my AWS version using this command. So let's check. So as you can see the AWS version and the details of about our AWS CLI. Right? Okay. Now let's clear the screen. It's done. We have successfully installed Helm AWS CLI. Now the third step is we need to install eksctl CLI tool for creating EKS cluster on AWS. So now as you can see, use below command to download EKSCTL tool for creating EKSCTL cluster on AWS. So to download the EKSCTL tool, you can go to the official page, or as you can see here, I mentioned the command to download the eksctl. So I'm going to run this command using curl. So let's run this command using curl. Okay, it's done. Now next is move eksctl setup to this location. Right, so for that I'm going to run this command to move this folder into this location. Okay, it's also done. Now the next step is, if you want to check the eksctl version, then you can run the eksctl version. Right, okay, it's done. Now we have successfully installed eksctl on Ubuntu. Now the fourth step is install kubectl binary with curl. Right, to download the latest release with the command. So as you can see here, I mentioned the command. I'm going to download my kubectl using curl. So first of all, I'm going to clear my screen. Okay, it's done. I'm going to clear my screen first. Then next is install kubectl. So here, as you can see, the command to install kubectl. So I'm going to copy my command. Okay, it's done. Now here, to test to ensure your version is installed or up to date. So let's check kubectl version. So the command is here to check the versions. As you can see, client version and the details about our kubectl. Okay, nice done. Now here we have successfully installed Helm, then AWS CLI, then eksctl, and then kubectl. Right? Okay. Now let's go to the fifth step. So the fifth step is we need to create AWS access key ID and secret access key ID. Why? Because here if I run the AWS configure to connect to my AWS account, so here it will ask me AWS access key ID, then AWS secret access key ID, then region, and so on. So for that we need to create AWS access key ID. If you want to create new user, then you can create new user and then you can use this access key ID as well as secret access key ID, right? But here, as you can see, here I have account with the name DevOps Shweta, so I'm going to use my account, and now I'm going to create new access key ID as well as secret access key ID, right? Okay, so as you can see how to create new access key ID. So go to the username and go to the security credentials, right? So here as you can see my security credentials. If I scroll down, as you can see access key, right? So I'm going to create new access key, right? So click on create access key, and here as you can see access key best practices and alternatives. So avoid using long-term credentials like and so on. So use case command line interface, local code application running on AWS compute service, then third party service, and then application running outside AWS and other. So here I'm going to choose other, then click on next. Then set descriptions is optional. If you don't want, then you can skip this. Then create access key. Now after that, here we need to download .csv file. Why? Because here as you can see, if you lose or forget your secret access key, you cannot retrieve it. Instead, create a new access key and make the old key inactive. So for that, we need to download this file, right? So as of now, okay, now the next step is here. We need to, as you can see, the next step is sixth step. configure AWS CLI. So how to configure? Run this command AWS configure. So as you can see, to connect AWS using CLI, we have configure AWS user using below command. So the below command is like that, AWS configure. So let's run the AWS configure command. So it will ask AWS access key. So here is our AWS access key. So I'm going to use this. Then it will ask me AWS secret access key. So the secret access key is here. I'm going to copy my secret access key. Then it will ask the region. So the region is AP South -1. If I go to my AWS account and here if I click on my region, as you can see my region is AP South -1, right? So that's why here I'm going to type AP South -1. Then enter default output format. So I'm going to skip it. Okay, it's done. Now let's clear the screen first. So we have successfully connected to our AWS account, right? Okay. So the sixth step is done, right? Configure AWS CLI. Okay. Now the next step is create Amazon EKS cluster using eksctl. So create EKS cluster in AWS using eksctl. So the command is here. So where is cluster? So here, as you can see, Amazon Elastic Kubernetes service. So if I go to this and refresh the page, so as you can see, as of now, here there is no any cluster. You can see here, you do not have any cluster here, right? So now let's create new cluster using this command. So as you can see here, if I go to my instance and refresh the page, as you can see, as of now here I have only one instance with the name EKS, right? Okay. Now let's create new cluster as well as security group as well as instance, right? Okay, PPC and so on. So let's create new cluster. So I'm going to copy the command and paste in my terminal. After that, here as you can see, the command is here. As you can see, the command eksctl create cluster and them and demo cluster, demo EKS cluster, my cluster name. So I'm going to rename my cluster name. So I'm going to enter name my cluster is DevOps. Okay. So my cluster name is DevOps Saint. Oh, right. Okay. Then region AP South 1 version. So here, okay, the version is 1.21. Then node group name, then Linux node, node type t2.micro and nodes 2, right? That means 2 instance. Okay. If I enter, as you can see, invalid version. Why? Because 1.21 is no longer supported value is like this. If you want to check, then you can go to the cluster and click on add cluster and then create. And as you can see, Kubernetes version, if I click on this, so as you can see, the default is 1.27 and so on. So you can choose whatever you want. So here I'm going to select 1.27, right? Okay, after that, enter. So now as you can see, it's creating our cluster with the name DevOps scene. If I go to my cluster and refresh the page, so as you can see, there is no any cluster as of now. So wait for few minutes. It's creating the cluster with the name DevOps scene and the region is AP South, as you can see. So it takes few minutes. So as you can see, building cluster stack, eksctl DevOps hint cluster, then deploying stack, then waiting for cloud information stack. So as you can see, our cluster name DevOps scene and the status is creating, right? As you can see, it's still creating. So that's why the status is creating, and the version is 1.27 and the provider EKS, right? That means Elastic Kubernetes Service. So wait for a few seconds. It take a few seconds to the status creating replace with active. So wait for a few seconds. It's still creating. So as you can see, it's done. So if I go to my cluster and if I refresh the page, as you can see, the status is active. So as you can see, the Kubernetes version is 1.27 and the status is active. And if I go to the instance, if I refresh my page, so as you can see, there is two more instance. So here as you can see, DevOps hint Linux nodes node and the second one, right? So here you can see our node IP and the node 1 and the node 2 is ready, and as you can see EKS cluster DevOps sync in AP South 1 region is ready. That means here the cluster here DevOps sync, the status is active, then Kubernetes version is 1.27 and the provider is EKS, right? Okay, that means it's done, right? So let's take the next step. So it's done. Create Amazon EKS cluster using eksctl. Now the next step is we need to check nodes in eksctl, sorry, EKS cluster. So how to check? So here I'm going to use this command to check my nodes. So the command is kubectl get node. So first of all, I'm going to clear my screen and run the command kubectl get nodes. And here you can see our two nodes, the IP and the status is ready and the version 1.27 EKS, right? And the status is ready. That's our first instance and the second one. Okay. Now let's clear the screen first. Okay. Now the next is we need to create Helm chart. So here we are going to name my help chart name will be DevOps scene. So the first step is to run the following command. So we need to create help chart. So the command is look like this: help create and your help chart name. So my help chart name will be DevOps scene. So if you want to change your name, then you can replace it. So I'm going to change my chart name. So my chart name will be DevOps, only DevOps. Okay, DevOps help. Okay, then enter. Okay, creating DevOps help. If I run the ls command, so as you can see here, DevOps help. Right. Okay. So let's inside our DevOps help. That means our helm chart. And let's run the ls command. So you can see here, first of all, chart.yaml file, then charts folder, then templates folder, and in last values.yaml file. Okay. Now we have successfully create our Helm chart. Then now next is you can ensure that your kubectl command line tool is correctly configured to communicate with your EKS cluster. So now to check, let's run the command. So as you can see here, my account name is DevOps. My username is DevOps Shweta, right? And here our cluster name is DevOps seed, and our that's region AP Southward and EKS city, right? Okay, that's correct. Now if you want to check, then you can run the command, otherwise you can skip this. Then next is, you should see the response with the Amazon resource name ARN for a EKS cluster, right? So to install the application with Helm, we need to run the Helm install command in the directory of the chart, right? We are chart directory. That means we need to inside our Helm chart. So our Helm chart name DevOps Helm, and if I run the ls command, there is chart.yaml file. So here we need to run this command Helm install, then your Helm chart name space and then dot. So my Helm chart name is DevOps hyphen Helm space dot, then enter. Okay, it's done. As you can see, last deploy, the date and time, then namespace default, and the status is deployed revision 1. And as you can see the node, right, the status is deployed. That's important. Okay, now let's clear the screen first. Then here, next is, this will deploy your application, and to verify the pod is running successfully, so you can use the kubectl to fetch the pods in the default namespace of your EKS cluster. To check, there is a command kubectl get pods. So let's check our get pods. So as you can see, our name DevOps Helm and the ready and the status is running. Right? Okay. Now next is, here, once you have confirmed the pod is running, the next step will be to upgrade your application. We need to upgrade our application. So this update will involve an update to configuration to the service. So you can modify the service type of cluster IP to load balancer in value 5. So we need to inside our Helm chart. So I have my Helm chart is DevOps Helm, and if I run the ls command, as you can see, there is a values.yaml file. So we need to replace the cluster IP with load balancer. So let's inside our values.yaml file. So I am going to use my favorite editor, Nano, and let's scroll down. And as you can see in service, the type is cluster IP. So here we need to replace with load balancer. Okay, now let's save the file and exit. Okay, and after that we need to update our file. So for that we need to update our Helm chart. So for that, let's run the command Helm upgrade, and our Helm chart name DevOps Helm space dot, enter. Okay, it's done. As you can see, status deployed revision 2, right? Okay, now it's done. Now let's clear the screen first. Now the next step is, once the upgrade is complete, you can get the domain name, right? Listed under the external IP from the service. So let's run this command kubectl get svc. So as you can see, your external IP, cluster IP, name and type, load balancer, right? So here if I run the external IP, so I'm going to copy my external IP. Before that, I'm going to, if I run my command helm upgrade, okay, sorry, no deploy release. Okay, so it's get svc, and I'm going to copy my external IP, and I'm going to hit on my browser. So as you can see, welcome to engineers, right? That means we are successfully deployed. right? You can see here I'm going to use this external IP, right? That's my IP, external IP, to check my browser. So as you can see the final output, that means we have successfully deployed Helm chart on EKS cluster, as you can see. So thank you for watching.